What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And I'm sure you all saw the news. The NFL schedule released last night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We pretty much already knew the Giants' schedule before the official drop due to leaks and reporting from guys like Art Stapleton and others. And today we want to jump on here and just discuss this schedule because you know what? It's kind of a gauntlet. It's kind of brutal. We all know that, but we did know that going into it, right? So, and I'll give my take on this as we get deeper into the discussion. Alex, a lot of fans are going to have a very pessimistic/realistic outlook. I'm still maintaining my optimism, which may come as a surprise to many of you, or if not, if you tuned into Giants Collective last night. But I have some takes on it, and I have some thoughts about the way that the schedule is structured and the opponents the Giants face. But as a reminder, the Giants do have the toughest strength of schedule this season. Now, I think that's kind of insane. I get that it's like a formula based on where you place in the standings. It's who you face the next year. But listen, the Giants went 3-14 last season. They had the worst record in the NFL. How in the world do they manage to get the toughest schedule in the league? It feels very unfair and kind of ridiculous. But what I'll say to that as a response to myself, who cares? Be better, play good football, win some goddamn football games, right? Like that is what we need to see from the New York Giants. Just have to be a better football team. And that's going to be part of the discussion that we have here. Like a lot of the teams that they're facing, even the winnable games, right, from last year, those teams got better, but you know what? So did the New York Giants. And ultimately, you can't worry about which teams you're facing on a week-to-week basis and how hard your schedule is. Just be the better football team. Go out there, make some plays, and win some games. So that's really how I feel about it. That's kind of like my intro to the idea of the schedule reaction. But now we'll go ahead and dive into it and have a longer discussion. Alex, how are you feeling today, my friend? And what was your initial reaction? Any major takeaways, specific games, anything like that from the New York Giants 2025 schedule?
Oh man, I saw that schedule and I immediately was like, I'm really happy we didn't trade any first or second round draft capital next year. That was my initial thought, like right off the bat. And listen, like this is what the Giants have to do, right? This is what Joe Shane, this is what Brian Dable has to face. The music. They got to be competitive against good football teams. There's no beating the Carolina Panthers, Saints, Raiders, Jacksonville Jaguars. You can't beat crap teams and survive anymore, guys. You guys got to compete and beat good football teams to survive. It's the only way to salvation. But Anthony, I think that there's a bigger question at hand here, irrespective of this schedule. Does Brian Dable and Joe Shane have 2 years here, or if they only win like 5 games, are they goners? Does John Mara have the balls to fire these guys, right? Despite the fact they just drafted Jackson Dart and they would be turning the entire coaching staff and offense over. What do you think about that? Because we will dive into the schedule, and I know you asked me a question before that, but I think I want to answer this question first and foremost. Do you think that Joe Shane and and Brian Dable have 2 years here, or do you think that a poor season would result in a cleaning of the house, even though they just drafted a quarterback?
The quarterback alone isn't going to save them. They need to win games. This is year 4 of this regime. I don't care if they drafted the quarterback. If this team wins one game this season, you cannot justify keeping Brian Dable and Joe Shane in the positions that they're in. Now, again, we'll see. Things can change, all this otherwise, but the quarterback obviously is giving us optimism for the future. And, more on that if you do join the membership for the channel. I just interviewed, I'm sure many of you saw the 100 SPS score that went viral for Jackson Dart. I actually interviewed the guy who invented the SPS model, and he gave some really great insight on how it works and why you should be optimistic about Jackson Dart. So that's over on the channel right now for members and will be public on Friday afternoon. So go check that out. But we've got reasons for optimism, especially because we all have, not all of us, but a lot of us have a conviction in this quarterback, really like Jackson Dart. And Joe Shane and Brian Dable have a conviction in him. That's why they traded up to draft him. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter if they're not winning football games. Like, it's year 4 of this regime. They said that it was going to be a rebuild at the beginning. They didn't rebuild properly. They screwed the pooch, made it all worse. In fact, 2022 is their first season, and they peaked in that season. Utterly ridiculous what we've experienced in the subsequent 3 years. This needs to be a better football team this year. They cannot get by with a 3-14 record once again. The Giants have to show some significant improvements on the football field, and not just significant improvements on their roster for the future. We need to win some games this season as well in year 4. We just went in on Russell Wilson, spent money on Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland, brought in Brian Burns last offseason. you got to yield some results now. There's got to be some wins showing up here. And I understand that the schedule is tough and the Giants are going to be underdogs more often than not, but so were they in 2022 and a lot of the other seasons where the Giants ended up surprising us all. This has to be one of those surprise seasons. Brian Dable, it's put up or shut up time. You're not going to get the opportunity to develop your quarterback if you don't win some games and show that you're a good coach this year. So that's my take on it, Alex. Maybe you have a different one, but I think they have to win games in order to save their jobs. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's valid. Jackson Dart, 25th overall pick. Like, if you're a new regime, let's say the Giants end up like cleaning house, new regime takes over, they get to decide if they want to draft a quarterback if they're liking, assuming that, they fire people. Like, you're probably going to be in the top 5 draft picks anyway. So they have choice at their disposal. But I don't want to jump to that. I want to talk about how they could save their jobs. And this schedule isn't doing them any favors, Anthony, my friend. I'd say it, in fact, is putting their backs against the wall. Right off the bat, we're looking at the Commanders. That's going to be a tough test because Jaden Daniels is no joke. He's elite already. And they made improvements to that roster this offseason. So, they're going to be a better football team most likely. And the Giants added some pieces of their own. Right, Russell Wilson, they're going to be at least competent on offense. I'm not going to say good, I'm not going to say great, but competent. We don't know what that's going to look like in week 1. Probably not as good as we imagine it will be in week 6 or 7. The defense, however, Abdul Carter is a weapon. Can they utilize him immediately? Can they define his role quickly? I don't trust Shane Bowen to really get there until midseason at the very earliest. So, I do think that they're probably going to have a tough time against a better Commanders team because they just have a year of experience under their belt. The Giants probably struggle in that one, but they play the Dallas Cowboys after that. I think they put a better fight up against the Cowboys in Dallas than they do against Commanders. I don't, maybe that's a hot take, but I don't think so. I think that Dak Prescott isn't that mobile. I think Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence are going to really cause some problems. And I think their defense is, they were really bad last year, actually, to be honest, they were really bad. So they get Trayvon Diggs back. They have some good pieces. They lost to Marcus Lawrence. They're not, maybe they're better just based on averages, but Anthony, off rip, I know maybe you have a differing opinion. If they don't win at least one of those first 2 games, it's going to get ugly fast in terms of narrative, right? The narrative is like, if they win, if they walk away, they head into first home game against the Chiefs Sunday Night Football, and they're 1-1, we're happy. We're okay with that. We're fine with that. But if they're 0-2 against the Chiefs with a chance of going 0-3, the narrative becomes very dark very fast, especially because we're used to that. We're used to that outcome. So, how do you feel those first 3 games could play out? I'm concerned. 0-2 is a death sentence for those guys.
I have a much more optimistic outlook on these first 3 games than most people do. And that might come as a surprise, but bear with me for a second, Alex. Allow me to explain. But when I'm looking at that week 1 game versus the Washington Commanders, I understand Jaden Daniels is sick. He's a superstar, and he's absolutely going to dominate the league. That's why he's got I think it's 8 primetime games the Commanders were given this year, something ridiculous like that. Like, they're really trying to make Jaden Daniels the face of the league. And I understand, especially considering next year's draft is going to be in DC. This is the perfect time. Pump the Commanders, all that stuff. I get it. But remember this. Last year, the Giants did, of course, face the Commanders twice. They lost both of those games by 1 score. They were very close. They should have won that week 2 matchup versus the Commanders. Malik Neighbors dropped that ball, but they should have been in scoring position. They should have scored that touchdown on that drive. They should have won that game if Malik Neighbors didn't drop that football. And later on in the year, they were also ultra competitive against the Commanders and had a chance for the majority of that game where they could have pulled it out and eventually gotten a win. So I look at those 2 matchups with the Commanders last year. I know that Jaden Daniels is sick. The Commanders have gotten even better than they were last year, but again, so have the Giants, and the Giants were competitive in those games against Jaden Daniels and the Commanders with the likes of Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, and whoever the hell else started in that second game against the Commanders. So with poor quarterback play last year, the Giants were at least competitive with the Commanders. And then this year, they've got better quarterback play, so we assume. And I think that they can compete. Not saying that they're definitely going to win, but I think a lot of people are chalking this up to a big L in week 1, an easy start 0-1 at the beginning of the season. hold your horses. I think the Giants can be competitive in that game. In fact, I think they match up well with the Commanders. Their defense isn't all that special. I absolutely think that this is a game the Giants could steal. And I'll talk more about stolen games in a little bit because I have some more thoughts. But let me get through these other two games that you mentioned here, Alex. Dallas in week 2, again, another team that I listen, rookie head coach and Brian Schottenheimer, we don't know what he's going to be. And he might have a lot of rust coming into the year. So maybe weeks 1, 2, 3, I'm not discounting the fact that Dallas is probably going to be a better football team than the Giants this season based on history and based on their roster. But generally speaking, with rookie head coaches, sometimes they do get off to a slow start. So maybe week 2 is the time that you do catch Dallas if you're going to catch them at all. And then the week 3 matchup. Now, this one's kind of crazy. I'm really stretching and reaching for this one, but bear with me once again. The Kansas City Chiefs in week 3 coming off of a game, which is a Super Bowl rematch in week 2 versus the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to put it all on the field in that game. And then the following week in this primetime matchup versus the Giants, maybe they're a little bit gassed. Maybe the Giants, again, catch them by surprise. And then on top of that, let me say this with the Kansas City Chiefs. How often do we see these Super Bowl hangovers? I know it's a stretch, it's a reach, but it is a thing that happens. Think about the Giants in 2011, 2012. They missed the playoffs. Think about the San Francisco 49ers. Looked like they were building a juggernaut. Lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, and everything unraveled the following season. The Chiefs just lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles. Of course, I still expect the Chiefs to be a powerhouse and a really good football team. But hey, they lost a lot of games, or they won a lot of games by only one score last year. They were beatable for the majority of last season, and now they're coming off of a Super Bowl loss. Could they be hungover going into 2025? Probably not, but I do think that it's worth considering it as a possibility. So all 3 of those games, everybody wants to say, nope, no way the Giants are winning those games. We're starting off 0-3. It's going to be a disaster. I just gave you at least one reason to be somewhat optimistic or hold out hope in each of those 3 matchups. So up to you if you want to buy into my hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it, or if you just want to go doom and gloom and assume the Giants are going to be 0-3. But listen, I'm not predicting a 3-0 start. But a 1-2 start, I think, is very possible. I think the Giants can absolutely steal one of those 3 games. And hey, 1-2 is much better than where the Giants have been at in recent seasons. So, and in fact, you know what? I think they could legitimately have a shot at beating both the Commanders and Dallas and starting off 2-0, and maybe going 2-2. And if we're through the first 4 weeks of the season, Alex, 2-2, we're going to be doing backflips here on the game live streams on Fireside Giants. So again, there's my hope. There's all my reasons for optimism in response to your question about the first 3 games of the season, but it's a long season and the schedule doesn't really let up after those first 3 games anyway.
No, it doesn't. Why don't you throw up the graphic here and we can kind of rattle off our opinions on the following. Okay, so we have the Commanders, we got the Cowboys, we got the Chiefs. Then we have to face your second favorite team, the Chargers. And they're going to be a really good football team this year, my friend.
They are. And let me just throw this out there. I've mentioned several times on this channel, and we've had a lot of requests to do content at the games, to go to the games, watch the games, and all together, Fireside Giants fans and supporters. You'll probably see me there week 4 versus the Chargers because I love both of these football teams. So just putting that out there early. If you have plans to go to any Giants games this year and you want to meet the Fireside Giants crew, myself, and maybe we'll get some other guys involved from the ESM family, circle week 4 versus the Chargers. That's one that I'm probably going to try and go to.
And that's going to be a really good game. I mean, just for some good football, good quarterback play at the very least from Justin Herbert and whatnot. And then we have week 5, the Saints. That game should be a walkover. Like, we should annihilate the Saints. I don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. I don't even think they know who their quarterback's going to be. So honestly, one of the quarterback might be a player on the Giants by then. So we'll see what happens in week 5. That should be an easy W. But then the Eagles, this is a gauntlet, dude. This next 4-game stretch is an absolute just, I don't even, like, that's ugly. That is as ugly as it gets. The Eagles on Thursday Night Football, and the Eagles just have our number right now. I really want to beat them. Do I think we can? I got to see it to believe it. The Broncos are rising. They're a good football team with an elite defense. Tough. They're going to be a really tough opponent. Eagles again. And then you have the 49ers, who will look better. They were really hurt last year. They will be a better football team this year. The Bears should be better, but got to see it to believe it. Packers, Lions. Packers are a good ball club, and the Lions are in a really good ball club. I mean, Anthony, you look at that middle of the schedule here, and to me, and this is my pessimistic, I'll give you a pessimistic and an optimistic perspective. My pessimistic perspective is Jackson Dart is starting by week 10. My optimistic perspective is they win. They go 2 for 2. They beat the Eagles once of those 2 games, and they beat the 49ers or the Broncos one of those 2 games. They go 2-2. You head on to the Bears, and you can beat the Bears. The Bears are a beatable team. I even think the Packers are a beatable team. And you're teetering on the edge of wild card. Like, that's my optimistic perspective. You're teetering on the edge, and then you have a little bit of a lighter schedule with the Patriots. You have a bye. Commanders, still a tough team. Vikings, I don't think will be as good without Darnold, but Raiders are a bad football club. So, maybe you're like heading into like week 11 and you're on the brink of like falling out of the playoff race for the wild card, or you're in the race. That's my optimistic perspective based on where this team is right now. Just the Giants are just a young club, man. They're just a young football team. They still have a lot to prove.
They do have a lot to prove, but you know what? I think this is the perfect time of the video to go ahead and dive into my reasons for optimism on the schedule, because you kind of just ran through a lot of reasons for pessimism, a lot of reasons to be realistic and assume that it's going to be a tough season for the New York Giants. But we go ahead and find, there it is, reasons to believe. This is the article that I wrote over on EmpireSportsMedia.com. Once again, shout out to the Pat McAfee Show for shouting out the EmpireSportsMedia.com. That was a pretty cool moment for us over here on the channel. But okay, so one of the things we mentioned here, Alex, you talked about who the hell is going to be the Saints quarterback, right? Well, also, there's another trend here with quarterbacks on the Giants schedule, and I find this pretty intriguing and under-discussed. Do you see the amount of quarterbacks the Giants are facing that have little to no experience or 1 year of experience? Okay, here's the stat on it. The Giants are facing 7. They're slated to face 7 quarterbacks in their sophomore seasons in 2025. So that, of course, includes Jaden Daniels. That includes Chicago Bears quarterback Caleb Williams, Bo Nix of the Broncos, Drake May of the Patriots, J.J. McCarthy of the Vikings, and potentially another one in Spencer Rattler of the New Orleans Saints if he's still starting by week 5 or if he starts at all. So what you're seeing here is a lot of opportunities for the Giants to steal games from teams that are banking on their quarterbacks, building on their rookie success in year 2. But what do we often see across the NFL? Sophomore slumps. The quarterback position, more than any other position, has sophomore slumps. So not saying that the Giants are definitely going to win all of those games, but can they steal a few of them? They absolutely should be able to, because quarterbacks in their second seasons, some of them, yes, they continue to build, they get even better, but a lot of them do have moments during their second season where they slip up just a little bit. They have some growing pains. They have a game here or there that they don't play their best ball, and that's the result of a sophomore slump. And you know who's the benefactor of that? It could be the Giants. It could be a team that is an underdog oftentimes, but hey, they're facing a year 2 quarterback, and that year 2 quarterback just slumps for a week or two, or just doesn't play his best ball for one game, and the Giants benefit from that. So that's my number one reason for optimism when looking at the schedule. Yes, it's tough, but it's tough because the Giants are facing a lot of young, promising quarterbacks, but those are a lot of young, promising quarterbacks that haven't proven a whole lot and don't have consistency as a hallmark trait just yet because they've only played one season of football, or in the case of J.J. McCarthy, haven't even played a season of football yet. So I think the Giants can steal a few of these games. They have 6 games against sophomore quarterbacks. And you know what? I think they can steal probably 3 of those. Just to be optimistic, I think that they can steal quite a few of those games. So Alex, what is your take on that? Like as I go through the reasons for optimism looking at the schedule, I don't think a lot of people have talked about the fact that the Giants do face so many sophomore quarterbacks. And if we're banking on a sophomore slump to just, kind of happen a couple times as probability would suggest, the Giants should be able to steal a few of those games.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but some of those quarterbacks we've already seen before, like you mentioned, Jaden Daniels twice. They haven't seen a defense like this from the Giants specifically. You know what I mean? Like Darius Alexander, Abdul Carter, Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland. This is going to be a whole different team that they face these days, right? You know what I mean? Like compared to last year, Jaden Nails is coming in saying, "Oh, we walked on these guys. We freaking absolutely moonwalked on them." That's not happening on this defense anymore. Like this defense is going to be competitive, extremely, at least from a pass rush perspective, and I think on the secondary as well. So, they're going to be more competitive. So at least we can try to keep this low scoring and at least have a chance to win these games. But the Giants somehow managed to get the hardest schedule of any team in terms of win percentage of the opponents from the previous year in the last 5 seasons. Right, last 5 seasons, they have the hardest schedule. Only the freaking Giants. Next year, our schedule better be Saints, Jaguars, Patriots, Raiders. Like our shit better be freaking light for Jackson Dart's first year. But I'll tell you what, I think that the truth is simple. If the Giants can be competitive, if they can win 7 games, I think Dable and Shane will clear. They'll be fine. They'll survive with 7 wins. And they'll walk into next year with a chance to reboot, rebolster, add free agent talent, add draft picks around Jackson Dart, and position him to win and be competitive in 2026. That's my best case optimistic scenario. And if I'm those guys, I'm like, we have to freaking win at least 7 games just to save our asses. Like we have to win. I think seven's with all the investment they made, Anthony. 7 kind of feels like the benchmark for me. Anything below 7, I don't know what John Mara is going to do. But 7 and up, I think their jobs are safe. Maybe you have a differing opinion on like what that actual number looks like.
I'm predicting a 7-win season for the Giants. I know that's an optimistic prediction for a lot of people, but I think 7 wins is possible, and I think it would be enough to save jobs because, again, it is a tough schedule, and Giants got better, but they're still not quite there yet as a football team. They still need some more top-end talent. So I do think 7 wins would probably be enough for John Mara to say, all right, you know what, let's play out the final year of your respective contracts to Joe Shane and Brian Dable. Now, Alex, another big takeaway that I have from this schedule, and I'm going to throw this out there as a positive for the Giants, Big Blue is avoiding the big lights, right? Not a lot of primetime games. They've got Sunday Night Football versus the Chiefs in week 3, Thursday Night Football versus the Eagles in week 6, and then they're not on primetime again until week 13 versus the Patriots. No holiday games this year, not ruining our Christmas Day, not ruining our Thanksgiving Day. You know, they're pretty much avoiding the bright lights. And also, it doesn't say it on this graphic, but a lot of the games that they're playing are 1 o'clock games. They're in the early windows. They're not in 4 p.m., 4:25, not a lot of 8 o'clock. So they're just not in the spotlight this year. And I think that's going to benefit the New York Giants. What do you think about that, Alex? The fact that the NFL said, all right, you might be the biggest market. You might be New York. And maybe you've done us well in TV ratings before, but you're just too bad of a football team and your schedule is too difficult. So we're keeping you out of prime time this year.
I think that's a good thing for the Giants. The whole organization needs to rebuild their confidence. You know, we talk about guys like Deontay Banks needing to like find their confidence again. The whole organization, from the freaking media department to the freaking players, need to be more confident because they keep getting thrown into these primetime games. And like Daniel Jones was not winning these primetime games, and he never was going to. Like they were just, the odds were stacked against them every single time. The team wasn't good enough, the quarterback wasn't good enough, the coaching wasn't good enough, nothing was good enough. They were embarrassed on a national scale. Let the Giants earn their freaking primetime games. I understand like you want to have the people tuning in and the market, but people were tuning in to watch the Giants get embarrassed. Even Giants fans were tuning in to watch the Giants get embarrassed. So like I think that nowadays, like, let them earn it. You know, there's enough good teams out there that people will tune into Thursday night, Sunday night football. You have the Giants Chiefs, you have the Giants Eagles, Giants Patriots is like a weird Monday night football game. Like nobody really cares, but like their fan bases are big enough that people will tune in. Drake May, you know, Russ, maybe even Dart by then, who knows?
How does nobody care about that? It's a Super Bowl rematch. Come on, that's a hype matchup. Giants Pats.
Maybe like I don't know. Super Bowl might be pushing it.
Yeah, the Super Bowl did happen. What was that? 13 years ago. Time.
Yeah, the time is gone. The time has flown. So much bad has happened in that time. I was just thinking about that. I was like, the Giants really employed Daniel Jones for 6 years. Like, we survived. Like, honestly, give yourself a round of a freaking applause. Pat yourself on the back. You survived probably one of the darkest stretches of being a Giants fan, at least in our lifetime. I know a lot of people will say, like, that are older than us, that were fans in like the 70s and whatnot. They had like really dark times and whatnot. This is our version of that. So like if you're a fan like 20 to like 35, you're in the same boat as us. It's been a rough ride recently. It's been a really rough ride for us. And at least there's some optimism, right? Like we have some good talent and we have some upside, and this schedule kind of like really brought me back to reality. Like an average schedule, I'd be like, oh hell yeah, we're gonna have a good year. We're gonna have a really nice bounce back season. Then I saw this schedule and I was like just as we had an inkling of hope, the NFL was like, let me give you a little dose of reality really quickly, and let me give you the hardest schedule that anyone's had in 5 years. So like, why can't we get a break? I'm not so sure. Jackson Dart, though, maybe next year we get an easier schedule and this is first year and they build up his confidence and we walk into the sunset. Who knows?
I guess it's possible. But all right, let me throw another reason for optimism, because once again, you're getting a little doom and gloom on me, my boy. But let me go ahead and talk about some of the coaching changes that the Giants didn't experience themselves, but are going to face this upcoming season that could give you potential excitement. The fact that they are facing 3 rookie head coaches this season, twice they'll be facing Brian Schottenheimer of the Dallas Cowboys. And you know what? Like with rookie quarterbacks, rookie head coaches have growing pains and they make mistakes. So maybe the Giants can steal a game from Dallas this season. Obviously, they'll be the underdogs in those games. But again, stealing a game versus a rookie head coach is a lot easier than stealing a game versus an experienced veteran playoff winning coach. So maybe they steal one of these against Dallas. Then again, there's the New Orleans Saints. You said it, the Giants. On paper, that's the most winnable game for them this season. They also have a rookie head coach in Kellen Moore, and by week 5, he could still be having some growing pains. And then Ben Johnson of the Chicago Bears. Listen, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Chicago Bears, much better football team. They're on the up and up, and there's a lot of reason for optimism. And I agree with Bears fans. I think the Bears are going to be a much better team this year, but with a rookie head coach, they're going to drop a couple games that they should win. That's how it goes. It's inevitable. So I think that the Chicago Bears, again, are one of those teams that you look at. Maybe we could steal that game as well. And then there's a couple other teams that had major changes at the coordinator position, particularly week 12 versus the Detroit Lions. They lost both their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, and defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, to the Bears and the Jets, respectively, as head coaches. So they have a completely new coaching staff. Yeah, they're a great team. They're a juggernaut, and they probably will continue to be. But could they have a little bit of a lapse this season? Could they take somewhat of a step back? Possibly, because we saw a juggernaut Eagles team a few years ago have a change at both OC and DC in the same offseason, and then they barely made it to the playoffs the following year and then got bounced in the first round by the Buccaneers. Now, of course, they made some changes the following year, went to the playoffs, won the Super Bowl. We know that about the Eagles, but is it possible for the Lions to have a little bit of a step backwards year because of the loss of the coordinators? And as they try and rebuild and move on to new coordinators, totally possible. So, another reason why you could see the Giants potentially playing upset and stealing another one of these games this year. And also week 17 versus the Raiders, not a rookie head coach, but a new head coach who maybe has growing pains with a bad team around him. Pete Carroll, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. So there's some of the coaching changes that are on the horizon for the Giants to face this year. A lot of overturn on a lot of the staffs of the teams that they're going to face. And I do think that's notable. And again, I think that's a reason for optimism when you're looking at games that the Giants could potentially steal this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're looking at just the coaches in general, you're talking about stealing coaches specifically, Anthony. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, the coaching changes, like the fact that they're facing 3 rookie head coaches, a bunch of coordinators have been overturned. They're facing a lot of teams
Yeah,
that have coaching changes.
I think that's a valid perspective. Actually, the Lions specifically got completely shredded, like to the bone. So that level of, sometimes you have like, I mean, I'd also argue sometimes those new coaches have like weird runs of success, Dable being one of them, right? Dable had like a crazy run of success as a rookie coach, and then like everything fell apart from there on out. We saw it with Pat Shermer, we saw it with freaking Joe Judge. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that first year coach is like in over their head, but like it works and like nobody knows what's happening, and like the league's catching up to like all the crazy new stuff they're doing. And then like the second year they kind of have that sophomore slump you talked about with the quarterbacks earlier. So I don't know. Like, look, any single season could change drastically for whatever reason. Injuries, inconsistencies, just drop off in talent. I mean, the 49ers went from like a contender for the Super Bowl to like literally not even in the playoffs last season. So like you never know what's really going to happen any given year. We just project based on what history told us the year prior. And the Giants have a really difficult schedule on paper, but they also got a lot better. So really, like, I just want to see them be competitive. You know what I mean? Like, just put their best foot forward. Don't take plays off. Get better as the season progresses. Russell Wilson not be an absolute waste of space at quarterback, as we've been experiencing recently. Like, I do think this is a team that has legs to build for the long term. Really, what I'm most curious to see is the young talent get better. Like, I don't care about Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm excited to see him because he's better than Daniel Jones, but I don't really care about Russell Wilson because he's only here for one season. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say is like, I'm also still focused on the long term. Like, I don't really care about Russell Wilson's impact on this team right now because I'm more curious about Jackson Dart's development. I don't really care about like Devin Singletary because he's going to be gone after this year. Like, more so what I'm saying is like, I want to see Abdul Carter find his role and take on that role and be elite. I want to see Deonte Banks get better. I want to see Kayvon Thibodeau take a step forward. I want to see the offensive line stay healthy. Like, there's some things long term that I need to see to feel like this future is at least brighter. What?
I want to watch Russell Wilson play some damn good football, man. Like, come on.
I do. No, I do. What I'm saying is
Russell
that, like,
Wilson, he's
I'm.
got some
It's
beautiful
Jackson Dart's
balls, and
team.
I can't wait to see him drop them all over the NFC East.
I don't even need to say it because you meant to say that, but I agree. I mean,
what are you talking about?
like, you meant to say some like crazy pause type stuff, but I agree with you. Like,
No idea what you're talking about. I'm excited to watch Russell Wilson play. Like, really excited, man. I can't wait to watch him play. Like, listen, you said it earlier. We went through 6 years of suffering through Daniel Jones. Like, let's relish in the moment of having a future Hall of Fame quarterback under center who's going to throw some good passes downfield to Malik Neighbors and others. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, I get what you're saying. Needs to be an outlook for the future. I don't think that's the mindset the Giants should take because they are not a rebuilding team. They can't look at themselves that way because they need to win games this year. So they better be excited about Russell Wilson and what these guys are going to provide this year, even if it is a stopgap in Russ, even if it is a short-term contract left for Okereke, who's only got 1 or 2 years left on his deal. But the New York Giants definitely need to focus on winning games and making a high impact this season. So I don't know. I'm kind of steering off the beaten path here, but once again, let me just say, in terms of the schedule, it is brutal. It's very difficult, but there are reasons for optimism. I think we both agree on that. There are ways that the Giants can steal some games this year. Yes, things are difficult, and a lot of the teams they're facing have improved, but so have the New York Giants, and hopefully those improvements do lead to wins this upcoming season. But alas, we'll leave it there. We'll wrap it up, and of course, we'll have more discussions on upcoming live streams and episodes in the near future. So make sure you do leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Drop your record predictions if you so choose. If you have them, I already said mine. I think 7 wins for the New York Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.